The space station Horizon 7 floated in the darkness between two distant stars. It was not a beautiful place. The walls were gray metal. The lights flickered sometimes. The air always smelled like recycled oxygen and old coffee. But for thousands of travelers, it was the only stop between the outer colonies and the inner worlds. Do-Hyen sat in the waiting area of Gate 14. His body was tired. His mind was tired. Everything about him was tired. He had been traveling for 6 days straight, moving from one transport ship to another, trying to get back home to Earth. His engineering contract on the mining colony had ended, and now he just wanted to see his mother and eat real food that did not come from a vacuum-sealed package. He looked around the waiting area. There were about 50 other passengers. Some were humans like him. Others were aliens from different worlds. A group of small, blue-skinned Valori sat in the corner, talking quietly in their musical language. A tall, thin Kashin stood near the window, looking out at the stars with its 4 eyes. Do-Hyen had seen many alien species during his 3 years in space. He was not afraid of them. They were just people, he thought. Different shapes, different colors, but still just people trying to live their lives. He closed his eyes and leaned back in his uncomfortable plastic seat. Maybe he could sleep for a few minutes before the next ship arrived. Then the alarm started. It was not a loud alarm. It was a soft, repeating tone that played to the speakers. But everyone in the waiting area knew what it meant. Do-Hyen opened his eyes and saw the warning message on the screens above. Attention! Drakai passenger boarding. Please remain calm. Security protocols are in effect. The reaction was immediate. The Valori group stood up quickly, gathering their bags with shaking hands. The Kashin moved away from the window, its 4 eyes wide with fear. Human passengers grabbed their belongings and hurried toward the exits. Within seconds, the waiting area was filled with the sound of footsteps and worried voices. Do-Hyen watched all of this with confusion. He had heard of the Drakai before. Everyone had. They were one of the oldest species in the galaxy. They looked like dragons from old Earth stories. Tall, covered in scales with horns and claws and long tails. The stories said they were dangerous. The stories said they had destroyed entire planets in ancient wars. The stories said to stay away from them, to never look them in the eyes, to never speak to them unless spoken to first. But Do-Hyen had never actually seen one. In 3 years of space travel, he had never met a Drakai. They were rare. They kept to themselves. Most people went their whole lives without seeing one. A security officer in a black uniform walked through the area. He was a tall human with a serious face. He stopped near Do-Hyen and looked at him. "Sir, you need to move to a different area," the officer said. "A Drakai is boarding." Do-Hyen looked at the officer. Then he looked at his seat. Then he looked at his tired legs. "Is there a law that says I have to move?" Do-Hyen asked. The officer blinked. "No, sir. It is just a strong recommendation. For your safety." "I am very tired," Do-Hyen said. "I have been traveling for 6 days. This seat is not comfortable, but it is a seat, and I am sitting in it. If the Drakai wants to hurt me, I am too tired to run anyway." The officer stared at him for a long moment. Then he shook his head and walked away. Do-Hyen closed his eyes again. Around him, the waiting area became empty. He could hear the last few passengers leaving, their footsteps fading into the distance. The alarm stopped. The silence that followed was strange and heavy. Then he heard new footsteps. These were different. They were heavier, slower, more deliberate. Each step made a soft thud against the metal floor. Do-Hyen kept his eyes closed. He was too tired to be scared. He was too tired to care. The footsteps came closer. They passed by several rows of empty seats. Then they stopped. Right next to him, Do-Hyen opened his eyes. She was tall, very tall, at least 7 feet, maybe more. Her skin was covered in scales that shimmered between deep purple and dark blue. 2 curved horns grew from her forehead and swept back over her head. Her eyes were amber like liquid gold, with vertical pupils like a cat. Her hands had 4 fingers each, tipped with short, dark claws. a long tail curved behind her, the end resting on the floor. She was looking at him. Dohayan looked back. For a moment, neither of them moved. The waiting area was completely silent. Somewhere far away, the station systems hummed quietly. Then, the dragon woman did something unexpected. She sat down in the seat next to him. Dohayan blinked. He turned his head to look at her. She was sitting properly in the seat, her tail curled around the leg of the chair, her clawed hands resting on her knees. She was looking straight ahead at the empty gate. "Hello," Dohayan said. The dragon woman turned her head slowly to look at him. Her amber eyes studied his face. Up close, he could see small details. The scales around her eyes were smaller and lighter in color. There was a thin scar on her left cheek. She was wearing simple clothes, a dark jacket, and pants that looked like they were made for her unusual body shape. "You did not run," she said. Her voice was deep, but soft. It reminded Dohayan of distant thunder. "No," he agreed. "I did not." "Why?" Dohayan thought about this question. It was a good question. Everyone else had run. The security officer had told him to move. Every story he had ever heard said that Drakai were dangerous, that humans should fear them, that being near one was risking death. But Dohayan looked at the dragon woman sitting next to him, and he did not see a monster. He saw someone who had walked into a room and watched everyone flee from her. He saw someone who had chosen to sit next to the only person who stayed. "I am tired," Dohayan said honestly, "and you look like you wanted to sit down." The dragon woman stared at him. Her golden eyes were impossible to read. Dohayan did not know if she was angry or confused or something else entirely. Then she made a sound. It was a low rumble in her chest. It took Dohayan a moment to realize she was laughing. "Tired," she repeated. "That is your reason." "It is a good reason," Dohayan said. "I've been on ships for 6 days. I ate nothing but nutrition bars. I slept on floors. I am very, very tired." The dragon woman looked at him for a long moment. Then she turned her head and looked forward again. "My name is Yuri," she said. Dohayan raised his eyebrows. It was a simple name. A human name. Actually, he had expected something more complicated, something that would be hard to pronounce. "My name is Dohayan," he said. "It is nice to meet you, Yuri." The dragon woman, Yuri, made that rumbling sound again. That quiet laugh. "Nice to meet you," she repeated, as if tasting the words. It has been a long time since anyone said that to me. Dohayan did not know what to say to that, so he said nothing. He just sat there, next to the dragon woman, in the empty waiting area, while the stars turned slowly outside the window. It was strange, he thought. Everyone said to stay away from the Drakai. Everyone said they were monsters. Everyone said to run. But sitting here, next to Yuri, Dohayan did not feel afraid. He just felt tired. And maybe just a little bit curious. The waiting area remained empty except for the two of them. Dohayan could see security officers standing at the far end of the corridor, watching. They did not come closer. They just watched, their hands near their weapons, their faces tight with worry. Dohayan found this strange. There were at least 5 officers there. They had training and equipment, but they were more afraid than he was. He was just one tired human sitting in a plastic chair. He had no weapons. He had no training for this kind of situation. But here he was, sitting next to Drakai, and he did not feel the need to run. Maybe being too tired to care was its own kind of bravery. "They are watching us," Yuri said. She did not turn her head to look at the officers. Her golden eyes stayed focused on the gate ahead. "Yes," Dohayan agreed. "They are worried about you. They're always worried about me," Yuri said. There was something in her voice, not anger, something older and heavier, something that sounded like sadness mixed with acceptance. "Everywhere I go, it is the same. The alarms, the warnings, the running." Dohayan looked at her. In the station's pale light, her scales shimmered like gemstones. She was beautiful in a strange way. Not beautiful like a human woman would be beautiful, Beautiful like a storm or a mountain or an ancient forest. Beautiful and dangerous and wild. Does it bother you? He asked. Yuri turned her head to look at him. Her vertical pupils narrowed slightly as she studied his face. Does what bother me? The running. The fear. Does it bother you? For a long moment, Yuri did not answer. She just looked at him with those golden eyes, and though Hyan felt like she was seeing more than just his face, she was seeing something deeper, something inside him. Yes, she finally said. It bothers me. She paused. Her clawed hands moved slightly on her knees. I have lived for 300 years, she continued. In all that time, I have tried many things. I have tried to be kind. I have tried to be quiet. I have tried to stay away from others. But it does not matter. They see my scales. They see my claws. They see my horns. And they run. Though Hyan thought about this. 300 years. He could not imagine living that long. He was only 28 years old, and already he felt tired of traveling. What would it feel like to travel for 300 years and have everyone run away from you? That sounds lonely, he said. Yuri made a small sound. It might have been a laugh. It might have been something else. It is, she said simply. They sat in silence for a while. The station hummed around them. Through the windows, Hyan could see a cargo ship slowly moving past, its lights blinking in the darkness. Why did you sit next to me? Hyan asked suddenly. There were many empty seats. You could have sat anywhere, but you sat here. Yuri tilted her head. The movement was almost bird-like. Her horns caught the light. You did not run, she said. In 300 years, I have learned to notice the ones who do not run. They are rare. They are interesting. I am not interesting, Hyan said. I am just an engineer. I fix machines. I eat nutrition bars. I sleep on transport ships. There is nothing special about me. You did not run, Yuri repeated. That is special. Hyan thought about this. Was it special? He had not made a choice to be brave. He had just been too tired to move. That was not bravery. That was laziness. But he did not say this to Yuri. Instead, he reached into his bag and pulled out a small package. It was one of his last nutrition bars. The wrapper said chocolate flavor, but it did not taste like chocolate. It tasted like disappointment and synthetic sugar. He held it out to Yuri. Are you hungry? He asked. Yuri stared at the nutrition bar in his hand. Her golden eyes moved from the bar to his face and back again. She did not take it. What is this? She asked. Food, Hyan said. Well, it is called food. It does not taste very good, but it is something to eat. I thought you might be hungry from your travels. Yuri continued to stare at the bar. She did not move. Her face was impossible to read. You are offering me food, she said slowly. Yes, you are offering me your food. Yes. Why? Hyan shrugged. Because I have food and you might be hungry. That is what people do. They share. Yuri was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached out with her clawed hand and took the nutrition bar from him. Her claws were careful. They did not scratch his skin. She held the small package as if it were something precious. Thank you, she said. Her voice was soft. Hyan watched as she opened the wrapper with surprising delicacy. Her claws were sharp, but she controlled them perfectly. She broke the bar in half and held one piece out to him. We share, she said. Hyan took the piece she offered. They ate together in silence. The bar tasted terrible, as always, but somehow eating it with Yuri made it slightly better. This is very bad, Yuri said after swallowing her piece. Hyan laughed. It was a real laugh, the first one in days. Yes, it is terrible. I am sorry. Do not be sorry, Yuri said. It is the best thing I have eaten in a long time. Hyan looked at her. Really? No, Yuri said. It is truly awful, but the sharing makes it good. Hyan smiled. The security officers at the end of the corridor were still watching. Other passengers peeked around corners, their faces pale with fear. But here, in this small space between two plastic chairs, something was happening. Something small and quiet and good. "Where are you going?" Dohayan asked. "Earth," Yuri said. "I have never been there. I want to see the blue planet that humans love so much." "Earth is my home," Dohayan said. "I am going back after 3 years in the outer colonies." "What is it like?" Yuri asked. "Your home." Dohayan thought about Earth. He thought about the green hills where he grew up. He thought about the ocean he used to visit with his father. He thought about his mother's cooking and the smell of rain on summer nights. "It is beautiful," he said. "It is crowded and noisy and sometimes dirty, but it is beautiful. The sky changes color when the sun sets. The water tastes clean. The trees are real, not synthetic. You can feel the wind on your face." Yuri listened to every word. Her golden eyes never left his face. "It sounds wonderful," she said. "It is," Dohayan agreed, "but I am worried about you going there." Yuri tilted her head again. "Why?" "Because humans on Earth have many stories about dragons. Most of those stories say dragons are monsters. They might be even more afraid of you there than they are here." Yuri nodded slowly. "I know, but I want to see it anyway. I have heard that Earth has something called rain, water falling from the sky. I have never felt rain. I want to feel it, even if just once." Dohayan thought about rain. He had felt it 1,000 times. He had complained about it. He had run inside to avoid it. He had never thought of it as something special. But Yuri had lived for 300 years and had never felt rain. "Maybe," Dohayan said slowly, "when we get to Earth, I can show you places where the rain is good. Mountains and forests and quiet places where people do not go. Places where you can feel the rain without anyone running away from you." Yuri looked at him. Her golden eyes were very bright. "You would do that?" she asked. "For me?" Dohayan thought about the question. He had just met this dragon woman. He did not know her. She could be dangerous. Everyone said she was dangerous. But sitting here, sharing a terrible nutrition bar, talking about rain and home, she did not seem dangerous at all. She seemed lonely. And Dohayan understood lonely. 3 years in space, far from home, had taught him all about lonely. "Yes," he said, "I would do that." Yuri was quiet for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was thick with something that might have been emotion. "You are strange, Dohayan," she said. "Strange and kind. I do not understand you." "I do not understand myself most of the time," Dohayan admitted. "But I know what it is like to be alone. And I know what it is like when someone is kind to you. It does not cost anything to be kind." Yuri made that rumbling sound again. That low, gentle laugh. 300 years, she said. "And a tired human with a bad nutrition bar teaches me about kindness." Dohayan smiled. "I told you the bar was terrible." "It was," Yuri agreed. "But you shared it, and that made all the difference." They sat together in the empty waiting area, the human and the dragon, while the stars turned slowly outside, and the security officers watched with confused, worried faces. Neither of them knew what would come next. Neither of them knew if this moment would last. But for now it was enough. For now, they were not alone. The hours passed slowly on Horizon 7. The transport ship to Earth was delayed because of some problem with the fuel systems. The station announced that all passengers for Gate 14 would need to wait at least 4 more hours. Most travelers would be angry about this. Dohayan found that he did not mind. He was still sitting next to Yuri. They had been talking for 2 hours now. Real talking. Not the small, polite words that strangers share. Deep talking. The kind of talking that happens when two lonely people find each other in an empty room. "Tell me about your family," Yuri said. Dohayan thought about his family. His father had died when he was young. Affecto accident. Nothing dramatic. Just the kind of quiet tragedy that happened to ordinary people living ordinary lives. His mother had raised him alone after that. She worked 2 jobs. She never complained. She always made sure he had food and books and love. My mother is waiting for me on Earth, Dohayan said. She is small and strong, and she worries too much. She sends me messages every day, even when I cannot reply. She asks if I am eating well. She asks if I am sleeping enough. She asks if I am wearing warm clothes. She sounds wonderful, Yuri said. She is. Dohayan agreed. What about you? Do you have family? Yuri was quiet for a moment. Her golden eyes looked at something far away, something that Dohayan could not see. I had family once, she said. A long time ago. My mother and father, 3 sisters. We lived on our homeworld, in the mountains by the crystal lakes. What happened to them? Time, Yuri said simply. Time happened to them. We Drakai live long lives, but we are not immortal. My parents passed away 200 years ago. My sisters are gone too. One by one they left. Now I am the only one. Dohayan felt something heavy in his chest. He tried to imagine watching everyone he loved grow old and die while he continued to live. He could not imagine it. The thought was too big, too terrible. I am sorry, he said. Do not be sorry, Yuri said. It is the way of things. Those who live long must learn to say goodbye. I have said many goodbyes. That sounds very hard. It is, Yuri agreed, but it also teaches you something important. It teaches you that every moment matters, every conversation, every shared meal, every small kindness, because everything ends eventually. Dohayan looked at the nutrition bar wrapper in his hand. Such a small thing, such a simple gesture. But to Yuri, who had lived for 300 years and watched everyone leave, maybe it was not small at all. Is that why you travel? Dohayan asked. To find moments? Yuri nodded slowly. Yes, I travel to see new places and meet new beings. Most of them run from me. Most of them fear me. But sometimes, very rarely, I find someone who stays. Someone who talks to me like a person. Those moments are precious to me. How many times has that happened? Dohayan asked. In 300 years. Yuri thought about this. Her clawed hand moved to touch the scar on her cheek. 7 times, she said, including you. 7 times. In 300 years. Dohayan did the math in his head. That was roughly once every 43 years. 43 years of loneliness between each moment of connection. That is not enough, he said quietly. No, Yuri agreed. It is not, but I take what I can find. They were quiet for a while. The station's lights dimmed slightly as it shifted into night mode. The stars outside the window seemed brighter now. Can I ask you something personal? Dohayan said. You can ask, Yuri said. I may not answer. Why do people fear the Drakai so much? I have heard stories, but stories are often wrong. What is the truth? Yuri's golden eyes closed for a moment. When she opened them again, there was old pain in them. Very old pain. Long ago, she said, my people fought a great war. It was before I was born, but I know the stories. The Drakai were at war with another species called the Vorith. The Vorith attacked our homeworld first. They burned our cities. They killed millions of our people. My ancestors fought back. What happened? We won, Yuri said. But the way we won was terrible. My ancestors used weapons that destroyed entire planets. They hunted the Vorith until none were left. They did not stop until every Vorith was dead. Dohayan felt cold. They killed an entire species. Yes, Yuri said. Her voice was heavy with shame. They did. It was called the Great Burning. It lasted 50 years. By the end, the Drakai had won, but we had become the monsters we were fighting. That was not you, Dohayan said. You were not even born yet. No, Yuri agreed. But I carry the weight of what my ancestors did. All Drakai do. The galaxy remembers the Great Burning. They see our scales and our claws, and they remember the stories. They remember the fire. They remember the death. That is not fair, Dohayan said. Yuri laughed softly. It was a sad sound. Fairness is a human idea. The universe does not care about fairness. It only cares about what happened and what people remember. Dohayan thought about this. He thought about human history. He thought about all the terrible things humans had done to each other over thousands of years. Wars, slavery, genocide. Humans had their own great burnings. Many of them. Humans have done terrible things too, he said. In our history, we have killed each other for many reasons. We have burned cities. We have destroyed nations. We are not better than the Drakai. Yuri looked at him with surprise. You admit this? How can I not? Dohayan said, history is true. We cannot pretend it did not happen. But we also cannot let history be the only thing that defines us. My ancestors may have done bad things. Your ancestors may have done bad things. But you and I are sitting here, sharing food and talking like friends. That matters too. Yuri stared at him for a long time. Her golden eyes were very bright. You truly believe this? She asked. I do, Dohayan said. I believe that people can change. I believe that the past does not have to control the future. I believe that every person, human or Drakai or anyone else, deserves to be judged by their own actions, not the actions of their ancestors. Yuri made a sound that was somewhere between a laugh and a sob. Her clawed hand moved to cover her eyes for a moment. I have lived for 300 years, she said. I have traveled to 1,000 worlds. I have met millions of beings. And in all that time, no one has ever said those words to me. Dohayan did not know what to say. So he did the only thing he could think of. He reached out and gently placed his hand on her arm. Her scales were cool under his fingers, smooth like glass. Yuri froze at his touch. She looked at his hand on her arm as if it were something impossible, something that could not be real. You are not afraid, she said. You touch me and you are not afraid. No, Dohayan said. I am not afraid. Why? Dohayan thought about the question. It was a good question. He should be afraid. Every story, every warning, every instinct should be telling him to run. But he looked at Yuri, this ancient dragon woman with her sad eyes and her lonely heart, and he felt no fear at all. Because you are my friend, he said simply, and I'm not afraid of my friends. Yuri was quiet for a very long time. When she spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. Friend, she repeated. I have not had a friend in 70 years. Well, Dohayan said, now you have one. The station hummed around them. The stars turned outside the window. The security officers still watched from far away, their faces confused and worried. But in this small space between two plastic chairs, something beautiful was happening. Two lonely beings were becoming less lonely, and sometimes that was the most important thing in the universe. The station's night cycle continued. Most of the other passengers had found places to sleep in other areas, far from Gate 14, far from the dragon woman they feared. But Dohayan stayed where he was. His tiredness had faded somehow. The conversation with Yuri had woken something inside him, something that had been sleeping for a long time. Tell me more about your people, Dohayan said. Not the war. Tell me about who you are now. What are the Drakai really like? Yuri's golden eyes softened. She settled more comfortably into her seat, her tail curling around the chair leg. We are not what the stories say, she began. The Drakai are explorers at heart. Long before the war, before the Vorth, we traveled the stars because we loved to discover new things. We mapped galaxies. We studied strange worlds. We collected knowledge like other species collect gold or power. Explorers, Dohayan repeated. That is very different from the stories. Yes, Yuri agreed. The truth is often different from the stories. My people love three things above all others: knowledge, beauty, and peace. Peace. Dohayan was surprised. But the great burning happened because peace was taken from us. Yuri said, the Vorth attacked without warning. They gave us no choice. My ancestors fought not because they loved war, but because they wanted the war to end. They wanted peace again. They went too far in seeking it. They became the very thing they hated. But their desire was for peace. Always for peace. Dohayan listened carefully. This was not what the stories said. The stories painted the Drakai as bloodthirsty monsters who destroyed worlds for pleasure. But Yuri's version was different. Sadder. More human, in a way. What happened after the war? He asked. Shame, Yuri said simply. Great shame. When the war ended and my ancestors saw what they had done, many of them could not live with the guilt. Some took their own lives. Others went into hiding on distant worlds, never to return. The Drakai Empire, which once spanned 1,000 systems, collapsed. We scattered like leaves in the wind. And now there are very few of us left. Perhaps 10,000 in the entire galaxy. We keep to ourselves. We travel alone. We avoid other species because we know they fear us, and we do not wish to cause fear. That sounds like a terrible way to live, Dohayan said. It is, Yuri admitted. But what choice do we have? We cannot change what our ancestors did. We cannot make the galaxy forget. We can only try to live quietly and not cause more harm. Dohayan shook his head. That is not living. That is hiding. Yuri looked at him with surprise. What would you have us do? I would have you stop punishing yourselves for something that happened before you were born, Dohayan said. I would have you go out into the galaxy and show people who you really are, not the monsters from the stories, not the warriors of the Great Burning, but explorers, scientists, beings who love knowledge and beauty and peace. They would not listen, Yuri said. They would run away before we could speak. Some would. Dohayan agreed. Many would, but not all. I did not run. There must be others like me, others who will stay and listen. Yuri was quiet for a long moment. Her clawed hands moved slowly, tracing patterns on her knee. You make it sound so simple, she said. It is not simple, Dohayan said. It is very hard, but hard things are still worth doing. My mother taught me that. She said that the hardest things in life are usually the most important. Your mother sounds very wise. She is the wisest person I know. Yuri smiled. It was the first time Dohayan had seen her truly smile. Her scales shifted around her mouth, and her amber eyes crinkled at the corners. It transformed her face. She looked younger, happier. I would like to meet your mother someday, Yuri said, if she would not be afraid of me. My mother is afraid of nothing, Dohayan said. She raised a son alone. She worked 2 jobs. She survived things that would break most people. She would take one look at you and probably try to feed you. She thinks everyone is too thin. Yuri laughed. It was a Rayal laugh this time, full and warm. The sound echoed through the empty waiting area. Your mother sounds wonderful, she said. She is. Dohayan agreed, and she would like you. I am sure of it. They talked more as the hours passed. Yuri told Dohayan about the world she had seen. Crystal caves on a moon of ice, floating cities above gas giants, living forests that sang in the night. She had seen wonders that most beings could only dream of. Dohayan told Yuri about Earth, about the mountains and the oceans, about the way snow fell in winter and covered everything in white, about the taste of his mother's cooking and the sound of rain on a tin roof, about the simple, beautiful things that made a planet feel like home. You love your world very much, Yuri observed. I do, Dohayan said. I spent 3 years wanting to leave it, wanting to see the stars. And now I have seen the stars, and all I want is to go home. That is not weakness, Yuri said. That is wisdom. Knowing what you love and wanting to return to it. That is a kind of strength. What about you? Dohayan asked. Is there a place you want to return to? Yuri's eyes grew distant. My homeworld is empty now. The mountains and the crystal lakes are still there, but no one lives in them. I have not been back in 100 years. I do not know if I could bear to see it so empty. Maybe you should not go back alone, Dohayan said. Maybe you should go back with a friend. Yuri looked at him. Her amber eyes were very bright. You would come with me? She asked. To the Drakai homeworld? No human has ever been there. Then I would be the first. Dohayan said, that seems like a good thing. Being the first human to see something. That is what explorers do, right? Yuri stared at him for a long time. Her face showed many emotions. Surprise, hope, fear, joy. They move across her features like clouds across a sky. You mean it, she said. It was not a question. I mean it, Dohayan confirmed. But first we go to Earth. I show you the rain. I introduce you to my mother. And then, when you are ready, we go to your homeworld together. Why? Yuri asked, why would you do all of this for me? We only met a few hours ago. You do not know me. You do not owe me anything. Dohayan thought about the question. It was a fair question. Why was he making these promises to a stranger? Why did he feel so connected to this dragon woman he had just met? Because you sat next to me, he said finally. When you could have sat anywhere, you chose to sit next to me. You chose me, and now I am choosing you back. That is how friendship works. You choose each other. Yuri's eyes filled with something that looked like tears, but they did not fall. They just shone there, bright and golden. 300 years, she whispered. 300 years of loneliness. And then a tired human in a space station changes everything. I am good at changing things, Dohayan said. It is my job. I am an engineer. I fix what is broken. Yuri laughed again. That warm, rumbling sound. You are fixing me, she said. You are fixing something that has been broken for a very long time. Dohayan smiled. Then I am doing my job. The announcement came suddenly, breaking the quiet moment. The transport ship to Earth was ready. Passengers for Gate 14 could begin boarding. Yuri stood. She was very tall. Her head nearly touched the ceiling. She looked down at Dohayan with those ancient golden eyes. Ready to go home? She asked. Dohayan stood too. His legs were stiff from sitting for so long, but he did not care. He picked up his bag and looked up at his new friend. Ready, he said. Together, they walked toward the gate. The security officers watched with shocked faces. Other passengers stared from doorways and corners. No one could believe what they were seeing. A human walking beside a Drakai, not running, not afraid, just walking together like old friends. Because that is what they were now, old friends. The transport ship to Earth was crowded with passengers, but no one sat near Dohayan and Yuri. They had an entire section of seats to themselves. The other travelers chose to stand in the aisles rather than sit close to the dragon woman. Dohayan found this both sad and amusing. More room for us, he said, stretching his legs into the empty space. Yuri smiled that new smile of hers, the one that made her look younger and happier. You always find the good in things. It is a skill, Dohayan said. My mother taught me. She says that life gives you problems, but it also gives you solutions. You just have to look for them. The ship lifted off from Horizon 7 and began its journey through space toward Earth. Through the small window next to their seats, Dohayan watched the station grow smaller and smaller until it was just a tiny dot of light among the stars. How long is the journey? Yuri asked. 12 hours, Dohayan said. We will arrive in the morning, Earth time. The sun will be rising over the ocean. I would like to see that, Yuri said softly. A sunrise over an ocean. You will, Dohayan promised. And then we will find breakfast. Real food, not nutrition bars. They talked throughout the journey. They slept a little too, side by side in the empty section, while other passengers watched and whispered. Dohayan did not care what they thought. He had made a friend, a real friend. That was more important than their stares and their fear. When the ship finally approached Earth, Yuri pressed her face close to the window like a child seeing something amazing for the first time. Dohayan watched her watch the planet, and he saw it through new eyes. The blue of the oceans, the green and brown of the continents, the white swirls of clouds covering everything in a soft blanket. "It is beautiful," Yuri whispered. "More beautiful than I imagined." "Wait until you see it from the ground," Dohayan said. The ship landed at a spaceport near the coast. When the doors opened, the first thing that hit them was the smell. Real air, not recycled and filtered like on the stations and ships. Real, living air full of salt from the ocean and moisture from the clouds above. Yuri stepped outside and stopped. She just stood there, breathing deeply, her eyes closed. Her scales shimmered in the natural sunlight. "This air," she said, "it is alive." "Yes," Dohain agreed. "Earth air is like that, full of life." People in the spaceport stopped to stare at Yuri. Security officers appeared, hands on their weapons, speaking into radios. Dohain saw the fear in their faces. The same fear he had seen on Horizon 7. The same fear that followed Yuri everywhere she went. "Please remain calm," an officer said loudly. "Everyone stay back. We are assessing the situation." Dohain stepped forward. "There is no situation. She is my friend. Her name is Yuri. She is visiting Earth for the first time. She wants to see the rain." The officer looked at Dohain like he was crazy. "Sir, that is a Drakai. Do you understand what you're saying?" "I understand perfectly," Dohain said. "She is a Drakai. She is also my friend. Those two things can be true at the same time." The officer did not know what to say. He looked at Yuri. He looked at Dohain. He looked at the crowd of frightened people behind him. Then a small voice came from the crowd. "Mommy, look, a dragon lady." A little girl, maybe 5 or 6 years old, pushed through the legs of the adults. She had black hair in 2 braids and wide, curious eyes. She walked right up to Yuri and looked up at her with no fear at all. "Are you a real dragon?" the girl asked. Yuri knelt down slowly, carefully, so she was closer to the girl's height. Her amber eyes were gentle. "Yes," she said, "I am a real dragon. My name is Yuri. What is your name?" "Somi," the girl said. "You are very pretty. I like your scales. They look like jewels." Yuri's eyes filled with that shining brightness again. "Thank you, Somi. That is very kind of you." "Somi," the girl's mother rushed forward, her face pale with fear. She grabbed her daughter and pulled her back. "I am sorry. I am so sorry. She did not mean to bother you." "She was not bothering me," Yuri said, standing up again. "She was being kind. She is a good child." The mother stared at Yuri. She seemed to be waiting for something terrible to happen. When nothing did, confusion crossed her face. You're not going to hurt her?" "I do not hurt children," Yuri said. "I do not hurt anyone. I am just a traveler. I came to see your beautiful planet." The crowd was silent. Dohain could see people exchanging looks. The fear was still there, but something else was growing alongside it. Curiosity, uncertainty, maybe, just maybe, the beginnings of understanding. Dohain stepped next to Yuri. "She is my friend," he said to the crowd. "We met on Horizon 7. We talked for hours. She is kind and wise and lonely. She has done nothing wrong. She just wants to see Earth." "She is a Drakai," someone in the crowd said. "They destroyed an entire species. They are monsters. Her ancestors did that," Dohain said. "Not her. She was not even born when that happened. Should we judge people for what their grandparents did? If so, none of us are innocent." The crowd murmured. Some people nodded slowly. Others still looked afraid. Change did not happen all at once. Dohain knew that. But it had to start somewhere. A man stepped forward from the crowd. He was older, with gray hair and weathered skin. He walked up to Yuri and bowed his head slightly. "Welcome to Earth," he said. "I apologize for our fear. We do not see many of your kind here." Yuri bowed her head in return. "Thank you. I understand the fear. I carry a heavy history. But I hope to show you that I am not what the stories say." The old man smiled. "The stories have been wrong before. Perhaps they are wrong about you too." They left the spaceport together. The security officers did not try to stop them. The crowd parted to let them through. Some people still stared with fear. Others nodded or smiled nervously. Little Somi waved goodbye, and Yuri waved back with her clawed hand. Outside, the sky was gray with clouds. Dohayan looked up and felt the first drops of water on his face. "Yuri," he said, "look up." Yuri tilted her head back. The rain began to fall, soft at first, then harder. The water ran down her scales, making them shine like precious stones. She closed her eyes and spread her arms wide, feeling the rain on her skin for the first time in 300 years. "Oh," she said softly. It was barely a word, more like a breath. Dohayan watched her. He saw the joy on her face, the pure, simple joy of feeling something new and beautiful. 300 years of loneliness, and now she was standing in the rain on Earth, feeling it for the first time. "What do you think?" he asked. Yuri opened her eyes. They were shining with something that might have been tears, mixed with raindrops. She looked at Dohayan, and her face showed more emotions than he could name. "I think," she said slowly, "that I am very glad I sat next to you." Dohayan smiled. The rain soaked through his clothes, but he did not care. He was home. He had a new friend. And the future was full of possibilities. "Come on," he said. "My mother is waiting. And I promised her I would bring her something special for my travels." "What did you promise to bring her?" Dohayan laughed. "A story. And you, Yuri, are the best story I have." They walked together through the rain, the human and the dragon, toward a small house in the hills where a mother waited for her son to come home. Behind them, people watched and whispered. Some still feared. Some were beginning to wonder. But that was okay. Change started small. A tired human who did not run. A lonely dragon who sat beside him. A shared meal. A conversation. A friendship. Sometimes, the greatest things in the universe began with the simplest acts. They said, "Stay away." But the dragon woman sat beside him like an old friend. And that made all the difference.